to close out the night. This is the first one, so let's get started, guys. Game number 1 is going to be on Star Station.
So, spawning up in the top right position, we have got the first Zerg of 2 in this best of 3. From mouz, he is playing as the green Zerg player, it's Hope. And his opponent down in the bottom left, the yellow Zerg. From AT, it is ThisGameSuck, who shall from now on be called TGS.
TGS is what his friends were referring him to in the chat for reference, so that's actually pretty useful as well. But, well, I think really, Maddles, we should be asking you a little bit about TGS, because you did cast some of his games recently in the Dutch StarCraft League. So what little nuggets of information can you let us know about this player here?
He's really solid, I think, is the first thing I'd say. He's really quite well-rounded. He's not the sort of player who is easy to read. He's quite young, and I think that in itself can make things a little bit awkward, because if it's someone who doesn't have a big history, can be a little bit more awkward to plan out what they're going to be doing. And of course, it is a ZVZ as well. I don't actually believe I cast him in a ZVZ series.
Okay.
So I'll wait to see what he does, but on Star Station, in cross-spawn positions, to be honest, I'm expecting both players to go for relatively economical openings, and a 15 hatch, 15 pool, swings and roundabouts in terms of the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see a situation here where Hope ends up going for his hatchery after the pool, and a TGS going for the hatch first and then the pool, but a couple of minutes down the line they will more or less be identical in resources. I think the difference between these two strategies is so close, it actually depends on positioning and how close, for example, the drone is to where you want to build the pool and stuff like that. Very, very close. We actually see TGS, by the way, just going to correct myself there, he went for the hatch, then the gas, then going into the pool as well.
And that's really just a very, very greedy build. It's the sort of thing where you've got to be feeling safe that your opponent isn't going to be trying to kill you early on. You do get some advantages going into mid-game of doing that, where you get speed down a lot sooner. You've also got the option of getting banelings down quicker. But speed's the big thing, actually, because it gives you the map dominance, and also it gives you the engagement opportunities. In small little skirmishes, in Zergling on Zergling fights, even if the Zergling group's equal, with speed you'll get a better arc and a slightly quicker engage, which just means that if you're darting in and out, you can actually get good scouting information and really cause a bit of a pain for your opponent.
Well, we can actually see that the gas that he is ahead is almost exactly 60 here. If we take a look at the worker spline, it's actually 20 to 19 in favor of TGS at the moment. But don't forget, by getting for that pool first, we did have the initial inject on the hatchery slightly faster for Hope as well, which is where it will end up balancing itself out. In the meantime, though, TGS is going to be going for his speed significantly sooner than Hope, thanks to that earlier gas, as we mentioned. Let's see what he aims to do with it going into the mid-game here, whether he's just going to be using these Zerglings defensively, or whether, with this Baneling Nest here at his natural expansion, he wants to go for an attack.
Well, we'll wait to see what he's got planned. Meanwhile, we do see that up on Hope's side, he's droning, and that is really pretty normal at this stage of the game. He's not seen anything to massively scare him. The overall placement for both players is good, so they know when anything comes out of that natural base of their opponent, and as such can make sure that actually they can make units in time, and actually Hope now just starting his own Baneling Nest. This is safe on both counts. It's possible they can be aggressive with it, but both droning so heavily, it seems much more likely they're just going to get defensive Banelings and transition into the mid-game.
Yeah, we have a very Zergling Baneling heavy early game to start off with here. Of course, at one point in Wings of Liberty, that was almost the entire ZVZ metagame, and well, right now we're not seeing too much deviation from that, so potential for aggression is out from both sides. The Baneling nests are complete, and it looks like we have a single Baneling morphing in right now, and that's just going to be nice and chilled out at the front of his base. TGS wanting to make sure that he is, very nice, quite well defended at the ramp there in case of any sneaky run-bys.
Now, let's just talk a little bit about the fact that both of these, or at least TGS, going up for 4 gas very early on. That is indicative of going up for a quick lair and going into mutalisks, which is the current ZVZ metagame, to be fair, but the downside is that it is very well known. Spore crawlers, of course, hit like trucks.
Yes, they do. Convenient little change there.
Yeah, and that means that early game, unless you get a really big mutalisk flock up, you can run into some difficulties. But these two, they're being passive. They probably are just going to get really large mutalisk flocks up, and that's when you can get some great engagement. So wait to see what they can do, whether either player tries to take a third, or whether we're just going to see a quick spire and 2 base play.
We'll find out in just a moment, as TGS has his layer almost done now. Just 5 more seconds until it's complete, and he does comfortably have the gas and change for Aspire there. So let's see if he does aim to put it down and how quickly that goes down as well. We have a third base going down now for TGS. A couple of Lings here trying its best to engage a few of those Zerglings, but only 2 actually able to make it through. Number of workers killed 0, unable to do too much at the moment. So the third base is going down first for our orange player, and we see both players going for Spire behind the natural expansion for TGS and inside the main for Hope.
So these two currently playing pretty much identically. Yes, there was a hatch first, pull first difference, but nothing massive. However, Hope is going to be the aggressor. It does scout the third base coming down. That was a good little spot for him.
TGS actually pulled him into it with his own Lings. I'm slightly disappointed with that, actually. Oh, and look at this. Spinecrawler coming out here, getting ready in the third base. He's going to try and root and see if he can't catch some of these units out in the open, but he has to be so careful because Hope is coming with 4 Banelings in addition to these Zerglings, and TGS has to react faster than that. Oh, that almost was a recipe for disaster here. That 4th Baneling trying its best to get some damage done, able to get a decent connect off, and now the Spinecrawler is going to go down as well. Hope with a slight Zergling lead here, and that means he's going to put a lot of pressure on this third base.
Yeah, he can keep up this pain for quite a while actually, because he does have a sizable advantage in the Zergling count. TGS though, he's got 26 Zerglings in production now, but that's up against the 31 that Hope already has down on the field. It's going to be pretty tough on both sides to try and make this work, but for the moment, TGS, he's lost Zerglings, yes, but he hasn't lost that third hatch, and while he keeps that up, things aren't too disastrous for him.
He's going to need those larvae really to create additional Lings in just a bit. He's also risking it just a little bit here by engaging these Lings, and those Banelings are going to try and trap them on the wrong side of them. Needs to be very, very careful. And here we go, 4 Banelings left, 3 left now. And TGS really needs to go back. Interestingly, he's not making any Banelings of his own in his defense against this, and that's because he's trying to use all of his gas for mutas. So TGS is going to have the first mutas on the scene here, whereas Hope has to have his fly across the map, and that's actually a big, big difference.
It is. These Banelings getting focused down, which is always a good move to make there from TGS. It means that actually can hopefully keep some more of these drones alive. So far, worker kill tab. Not looking too scary, but Hope is piling on the pressure here. Both players getting their flyer carapace down, but of course that's essentially muta on muta engagements because you need to minimize the damage of the bouncing glaive. So, yeah, as it stands, TGS actually doing a nice job of defending.
Yeah, only 2 workers killed, by the way, guys, which means that Hope is leading by a single worker. But kindly note that because he didn't build any Banelings during that engagement, TGS was saving up a little bit more gas. He's actually leading very slightly in the Mutalisk count right now, and that's very good because this third hatchery didn't go down, like you mentioned. He lost a couple of Queens, we'll be able to rebuild those, but right now it's TGS that's putting on the pressure, picking off a lot of Overlords. In fact, both players supply blocked for a little bit here, and now he's going to be coming in at the third.
Now, this is all going to come down to the muta on muta engagements, and there are 2, well, I'd say 3 main factors to who's going to win that fight. 1, the obvious one, who has more Mutalisks?
Yep.
2, the upgrades. But 3, who has the ground dominance under the fight? Because if you've got some spare Zerglings sitting around, you can soak up those bouncing glaives with them and allow your Mutalisk to engage a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Being able to get a couple of Lings, usually Zerglings anyway. I mean, technically you could stick a couple of Ultralisks underneath if you really wanted to. But just making the bouncing glaives hit a unit other than another Mutalisk to try and give yourself just that little bit of air superiority. Every little difference helps, because as little as 2 or 3 extra Mutalisks in an otherwise equal fight doesn't mean you win by 2 or 3 Mutas medals. It means you win by an awful lot, and you end up with 5 or 6 coming out of it. The gains to be had from having a little bit more than your opponent are more or less exponential in a muta-on-muta engagement, which is why things like those Lings underneath are so important.
Well, we'll wait to see whether either player can utilize that. Hopefully both will be able to. For the moment, muta count 33 to 32. Very close, slight advantage for TGS. But here we go, muta on muta fight in the center. What are the upgrades looking like for the time being? I believe it is 0-1, 0-1 on both sides. So it's all coming down to the superior numbers, which TGS has at the moment.
Oh, and the Lings are moving underneath the mutas from TGS as well, so that's really, really smartly played. Having them hold position underneath just in case they decide to pop round here. 7 more mutas in production for TGS as well. He's leading the muta race now by 8, so he has a really nice small advantage, but that small advantage could snowball into something bigger if he gets a nice engagement.
It certainly can, and that's something that obviously Hope does want to avoid, because if he gets that snowball, once you get a solid air superiority, things can go pretty bad. The first volley did manage to go off there though for Hope, but Zergling's coming in underneath. They're going to be soaking up some of these bouncing glaives, and which player is coming out on top? Well, to be honest with you, getting to actually spot this is really difficult, but it looks like TGS is just winning this engagement, and he is getting himself into a really nice spot here.
He really is. 121 supply versus 96 at the moment. TGS doing a fantastic job right now. If we take a look at the unit count, it's 18 to 8 Mutalisks. There's very, very little he can do. Infestors are out, but unfortunately it gets picked up before it can cast or have the energy for a Fungal. Now this third base is under threat. Hope is looking like his chances in this game are hanging by a thread now because his opponent is now up by 40 supply.
That is a massive lead. We can see this third hatchery is taking a lot of damage, and one lone Mutalisk getting sniped off there. The hatchery deemed allowed to live by TGS in the moment, but that is because he's coming to pick off the Mutalisk flock. That is where the big action is going to be coming down. We can see the Mutalisks for Hope getting taken out. Zergling's pushing into the natural base. Things for TGS looking so good in this first game.
And here come the Mutas as reinforcement into the natural expansion where all the action is. Yes, Hope did technically win that ground army battle, but these Mutas, they're not going to, they're really not going to relent anytime soon. Avoiding the Spore Crawler at the moment because it does actually hit like a ton of bricks. And, oh, he's picking off a couple more Mutalisks as well. That is not something Hope needed right now. And look at all these Overlords. It is an Overlord buffet over here.
Luckily, Hope has got a lot of extra supply, but that is not a good thing in itself either, because it means that TGS just has so much more down on the field. He's pushing in. He's going to go straight for that Spore Crawler. Just 2 volleys kill it. And it doesn't matter if you hit like a truck if you are dead.
Yep.
So this is looking really good for TGS. And there is the GG.